My name is Commissioner Frank Avila. I'm a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And the name of our show today is Water in Crisis, What We Need to Do. And I have two experts here to discuss water in crisis here. My first guest is Beverly Walter. She is co-founder and current co-chair of Citizen Act to Protect Our Water, a Chicago area grassroots advocate organization. She has given numerous talks about water issues in the Chicago area. Very important water.
Absolutely.
Very, very important. And our next guest is LIANE Casten. And LIANE is an award-winning journalism with publication credits in national periodicals such as the National, Mother Jones, and Environmental Health Perspective. And you know, she also wrote a book. It's an excellent book. It's called Breast Cancer, Poison, Profit, and Prevention. And I would recommend everyone to go out there and buy this book.
Amazon.
And thank you for being on my show.
It's a pleasure.
LIANE.
Thank you for inviting us. Yes.
Oh yes, because water is a crisis.
We're 70% water.
70, right. You know, the good Lord made us 70%
right.
water. You know, we could live without food for a month, but try living without water
For a week.
Maybe not even a week.
No.
Maybe 3 or 4 days, and you're gone. You know, an elephant has 67% of water.
That's a lot of water.
Yes, and a chicken is 67% of water. And a human being, we're 67% of water. Water is very precious.
And we all share that water.
No, we don't share. And so that's why I'm glad to have two experts on. We're going to talk about water in crisis. And so, LIANE.
Yes.
The first question I'm going to ask you, what the heck? We live next door to a huge body of water, Lake Michigan. Why worry about water? We got Lake Michigan here.
If you take the view that's this long, you can say that. It has to be just this long, though. What we are dealing with today is truly a water crisis. And there are many ways that the crisis manifests itself. So we have to really start seeing our water on a number of different avenues. And it's not just the availability of water, it's the fact that water can be polluted with toxins that we don't even know about. It's the fact that people can really become very sick drinking the wrong water, that we can't depend, notwithstanding the wonderful work you do.
Yes.
We can't depend on the Metropolitan Sanitary District to keep all the toxins that are coming into our water from getting into our water because you don't have the technology.
Right, you know, and it'd be very expensive. What LIANE was mentioning that I'm the commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And we have 3 missions. One mission is to protect the water supply, Lake Michigan. And the other mission is to treat human waste. We treat poop and pee. We treat all the personal care products that the person uses during the day. It comes into our system. And what LIANE is mentioning is that they want us to remove all the toxic chemicals that comes into our plants.
You don't have it.
And we're doing an excellent job, but it's so expensive. You know, our budget, our agency, our budget is $1.2 billion. Why should we spend $1.2 billion at the back end when it's already out in the environment at the front end?
Well, that's, do you have any mechanism for stopping what's going into the waste stream? Can you stop people from throwing out their pills into the waste stream? Can you stop people from throwing out the kind of chemicals like shampoos that are really in some instances toxic?
Yes.
You can't stop that from happening. There is no law, nor do I think there's technology to do that.
And there's no testing. Our government doesn't test any of these toxic chemicals that are in these products.
So you have the water filled with stuff that I can't begin to tell you how much stuff there is that your scientific community cannot begin to cope with. Now, if you want to hear more about that, I'll be glad to tell you.
Now, Beverly, some people say that individual efforts regarding water conservation are negligible. And that we ought to focus on larger government effort exclusively. What would you say about that?
Well, I would say that that's not right. that it is very important that we make sure that our regulators are regulating, for example, the EPA is regulating the toxic discharges that some companies are dumping.
Companies, yes,
are dumping into the lake. And that they sometimes give them waivers when we are to the point where that is really no longer tolerable. So maybe those agencies need to have citizens aware and pressuring them to do the job they're supposed to do. And yes, we do need to have that done. And maybe we also need tighter laws about some of the people who produce the kinds of toxins and pharmaceuticals and chemicals that go into products that people think are safe but really aren't. So maybe we need laws along that line also, and we need to have our legislators really being aware of what they ought to do. But there are lots of things that individuals can do, and every little bit that we can do makes a lot of difference. And one of the things that LIANE was talking about is our choices.
Our choices, yes.
We have a lot of power as consumers because the companies will listen to whether or not their products are bought or they sit on the shelf. And so, it's very important for people to become aware of how we can't take our water, we can't take Lake Michigan for granted anymore. If we ever could, now more than ever, we can't do that. So we need to be looking at the products that we're using and looking at that list of chemicals and a lot of them and saying maybe there's an alternative that is natural, that is not going to pollute, pollute the lake and cause health problems, which can actually occur because of those chemicals.
I agree with you. It's the whole social behavior. And
Right.
How do we go out? We have to educate. Go out and educate. And who do we educate? And how do we educate? That's the key. What I've been doing is I've been going out to schools and talking to kids. And maybe, because the mother, the parents, is the first teacher of the children. Then comes the teachers in school, or the next teacher of the children. But how do you educate the teachers to educate the students? And I'm trying to do the reverse. I'm trying to go into schools and teach the students. And even by washing your hands is the first line of defense to getting sick. In today's Tribune, did you read today's Tribune on antibiotics?
Oh, sure. But we know that.
We all knew that.
We all knew that.
15 years ago, 20, and now, today.
Suddenly, all of a sudden?
Yes.
How long did it take them?
It took them a long time. Because why? Because the livestock, they like to use antibiotics they say for health reasons. Well, it's not for health reasons. It's for getting them fatter faster to bring it to the market faster. And now these antibiotics are now working, and they're encouraging the doctors now not to prescribe antibiotics.
10 years ago, the World Health Organization came out and said, stop using the antibiotics on animals. No one was listening. No one. Now it's become so important that the doctors don't even find the antibiotics very effective.
Right, because we eat, myself, I don't eat any meat. I became a vegan. When I got elected to the office here, I changed my diet because my wife said, "Look, you're going around talking about health and wellness. Why don't you be a role model?" So she took me to a vegan.
Bless your wife.
Yeah, I bless her. I bless her every day. And so she took me to a vegan spa, and that when I changed my
diet,
my behavior, my social behavior.
That's terrific.
Now, not everyone could be a vegan, but if they lessen the amount of food they eat, because they say you eat more vegetables, they become more healthier. And so that's why I encourage people to health and wellness. So I chair also health and wellness. So I chair 3 committees:
That's good.
maintenance, operation, engineering, and health and wellness. And I like health and wellness because I could go out and talk about health and wellness.
That's terrific.
See, so this is, and that's why I'm glad to have you, Leanne, on the show, and you, Beverly, to talk about water, because water is health and wellness. We have to drink water to eliminate the toxic from our body.
That's right.
If we don't pee during the day, we're eliminating our toxic. We have to pee every day. If not, we're in trouble. And we have to poop every day to eliminate our toxic. And so now, Beverly, what are some of the things that individuals can do to make a difference about protecting our water?
There are lots of things that people can do. And I think you had mentioned something about resolutions. Can I mention my resolution?
Sure. Yeah, because this is going to air in 2014, and we're going to give a resolution for 2014. And so what is your resolution, Beverly?
Well, I have a resolution that I hope a lot of people like enough to adopt for themselves, and that is I want to do a rain garden.
Oh.
Because I have an old house.
Yes.
And there's a big old tree out in front of it, which I love.
Yeah.
But you know, like a big tree can need 60 gallons of water or so a day, and we're beginning to have this change in our climate, so it's much hotter and drier, and the trees need more.
Yeah.
And it's very expensive to water.
Oh, water's going up, and especially in the suburbs.
So what I want to do is have the this rain garden, because it will tend to be like an underground container for water.
Yeah.
And that's going to help 2 ways. One, it won't go into the sewer.
Yes.
And then go down, get all mixed up
Right.
with the sewer,
Right.
and go down to the Mississippi and
Right.
pollute the Gulf
Right.
down
Yeah.
there. And then also, hopefully, it will keep more water in my yard, so my trees and my plants will be healthier. So that is my number one. That's my number one water resolution.
Well, that's excellent, because as I mentioned at the Water Reclamation District, is that we treat poop and pee. We treat all the personal care products that come into the system, and the lesser amount of water that comes to our system, that saves us money. Because Beverly, you mentioned one thing that a lot of people don't understand, that when we treat human waste, and at the end of the treatment, after we treat it, we discharge the effluent, which is the liquid side, into our channel. And from our channel, it goes to the lock and lock port. It's discharged into the Des Plaines River. From the Des Plaines River, it goes into the Illinois River. From the Illinois River, it goes into the Mississippi, down to the Gulf of Mexico. Now, as it's traveling, you have all the other runoff coming into the waterways. Yeah. And all these farms that are using all these pesticides, atrazine especially.
Atrazine is a horror.
Terrible. So and Roundup also is terrible, and that's why in GMO they're putting this pesticide in the seed now too, and it not only is it polluting the river, Mississippi River. At the end of the Gulf, you got pollution out there that's the size of Massachusetts. There's no living, you got microorganisms living in there, but no other things are living in that area. So
it's a serious problem.
So that's why this is water. We're talking about water.
Shall I add something to it?
Yes.
Okay. I just mentioned to you organochlorines. That's a combination of chlorine plus organic, non-organic industrial material. And you get DDT and dioxin and PCBs. We are also getting a lot of that stuff in the pesticides and herbicides. So when you have the runoff of that, you're also causing serious problems for the fish, for the wildlife, and for humans, because there isn't enough good technology to really eradicate PCBs and dioxins. They are really toxic stuff. Dioxin is the most toxic chemical known to man, and it still is being manufactured and used in the farm. It's still, as we speak. So the runoff is there. And there's one more runoff that you've got to know about.
Yes.
This is not fun. It's nuclear radiation.
Well, that's, I never thought of that there.
Okay. Just know that the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, allows for low-level nuclear waste to run off into the waters. Now, they say it is such low level, it's not toxic. Well, excuse me, but two things. Low levels accumulate. They bioaccumulate in the water.
Yes.
And after a period of time, low levels become very large levels, okay? And guess who's being hurt by those families that are living close to nuclear radiation plants? The children.
Yes, the
They're
kids.
getting
yeah.
huge trouble. Cancers of the thyroid, all sorts of leukemias. We are talking trouble coming out of our water. And you guys have no facilities for cleaning that up.
And you know, I'm glad you mentioned, Leanne, about the low amount of exposure that is so it's part per billion they talk about. And but then they're forgetting about as you mentioned, accumulating.
That's right.
All the time.
It bioaccumulates.
Right, but the other toxic chemicals that are also coming in, and they say, oh, it's a small amount because it's parts per billion, but gather all the 100 or 150 other chemicals, and they're only part per billion, no effect, but the accumulation.
Excuse me, but watch out.
and that's the problem with, you know, antrazine. You mentioned antrazine is banned in Canada. It's banned in Europe, but they're still studying it here.
Well, studying it, excuse me, that's another way of saying we're postponing the banning of it.
Yes, and we all know that antrazine is not good. There's a Dr. Tyrone Hayes did a research on it, and his research found that the frogs are changing from male to female. Now this is a small animal here, but who's small in a human being?
Babies.
See, and so also who's suffering on the farms are all your migrant workers.
Oh God, yes.
They did a study on migrant worker children and compared to other children that are not in the area of that drift of antrazine, and they found out that they could not draw a human being with the arms and the legs because they had some kind of disorder due to the pesticides on the farm.
Can I explain that to you too?
Yes.
Okay. There have been some serious studies done, not even recently, on what happens when pregnant mothers, eat Great Lakes fish. Now, coming into the Great Lakes fish, especially the fatty part, are all these toxins. The toxins just glomp onto the fat of the fish. You get a mom eating 2 Great Lakes fish a month for 9 months while she's pregnant, and she's going to give birth to a child who is less intellectually capable.
And that's the problem we're having nowadays is that, yes, we are living longer. There's no doubt about it.
No.
Adults are living longer, but the kids that are being born today has maybe 160 types of toxic chemicals in their umbilical cord, and they have adult diseases at the time of birth. Heart disease, diabetic,
and
high blood pressure,
cancer.
Just go down on this. So yes, we are living long, but what condition will these kids that are being born now, what condition will they be when they're living longer? I mean, we're in serious problem. What do you think about that, Beth?
Well, I think
that's all related to water because we drink a lot of water.
Yeah, 70% water.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, this is a situation that's not just isolated. For example, the fracking that's going on down in that they want to do, that they're doing all over
the world.
That takes out between 1 and 7 million gallons each time they do a frack. And there are perhaps a chemical soup of up to 600 different chemicals. Most of those are toxic, if not carcinogenic. You know, they produce cancer. And those go pumped down, and then a lot of that comes back up. Well, that water is out of our usable water, the hydraulic cycle. So we're thinking, what are we thinking?
And you mentioned dioxin, right?
I know a great deal about dioxin, okay?
Yeah.
I've written a lot about it.
Is dioxin coming from the fracture, too?
The dioxin can come from a number of places. It can come from bleaching pulp wood so that we have white paper,
Yes.
okay? And that comes right, you mix that with the chlorine, and it comes right into the river where you cannot have a bleaching process without water
And
right
that's
next to
why
it.
in Oregon,
That's right.
in Portland, Oregon, the river up there, because of the wood pulp factories, been discharging all that in the river
All
up
that
there.
dioxin.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, dioxin comes from a number of different places, including the burning, municipal burning of waste. And it comes right out of the smokestack, okay? And it lands, it goes through the air and it can land right in the water. So you've got a number of avenues for this terribly toxic chemical to go right into our waterways, where at this point I wonder whether or not there's technology enough to really stop it from coming into our faucets, our clean faucets. I don't know that there is enough. And dioxin can destroy a fetus. It's fetotoxic.
You know the sperm count of
Yes.
of humans,
Yeah.
male, is down now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you have your young families now that want to have a family. I mean, they're having a hard time because of the sperm count that's down.
right.
You know, and so we're now. What do you think we could do, Bev? You know, you formed this group, right? Co-founder and current
That's right.
co-chair
Yes,
of
we're co-chairs.
Citizen Act to Protect Our Water. What is
Yes.
that group?
Well, we're called CAPOW.
CAPOW?
Bang.
We were initially formed because we were concerned about the privatization of water.
Yes.
This was when just right after the parking meters had been privatized and people were very upset.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh, if that is bad, how bad would it be if our public water system were
Yeah,
privatized? Because the track record of companies that have privatized their water is atrocious. The rates go up.
Yeah,
Think parking meters, the service goes down. The public workers that have a public service mentality, a lot of them are fired, and the quality of the water goes down. And then we lose control of our water. For example, with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, we have commissioners.
Yeah.
They're publicly elected. They are responsible to the public.
Yes.
If a company takes over the water supply, it's much more difficult to get accountability. So that's how we got founded. But then after we had been founded, we started realizing how many other water-related issues there were, and that's why when we have this conference that's was scheduled for December the 7th, and we have a whole bunch of different people talking about all different issues that need to be treated. And I think the number one thing I'd say is people need to be aware that this is really something very fragile, that the Great Lakes are wonderful. We have 20% of the fresh water in
Yes.
the world. We enjoy them, we're proud of them, we love them, but we have to take care of them. And so I think that's the number one thing that we need to be saying, is that become aware of how valuable this resource is, and then that hopefully will motivate people to do the kinds of things that need to be done to protect them.
Yeah, you mentioned that the Great Lakes is about 20% of fresh water throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
But
Surface fresh water.
Surface water, yes.
Mhm.
And it's 95% of all the surface water in the United States.
That's right.
I foresee, do you know what I foresee? That with the fracking going on, with ethanol gas depleting our water table, that I foresee that people are going to start coming here to the Great Lakes. I mean, not in 5 years, but in the future, that we're going to have the Great Lakes, that they're going to come and come to where the water is at, because they have no water where they're at.
Now, is climate change changing the level of Great Lakes now?
No, the level's about the same.
It is about
Yeah,
the
yes,
same.
yes.
Well, if we get more and more warm, if we get warmer, I would predict that the levels of the Great Lakes are going to be going down. It will start evaporating. So we are talking about a future that we need to be aware of as well. Okay?
So that's another issue, and that is how much how much water we consume is also something. And I mean, it's really nice and luxurious to take a bath, you know, where
Yeah.
the water
Yes.
comes up to your chin. But I don't do that anymore, you know, because one, it's getting to be pretty expensive, but two, I'm beginning to think about, you know, that's really not something to do and use that water now. We should be thinking about
yes.
saving that water for our children and for, you know, future generations.
So how can we educate the public? You know, I've been doing this, giving talks all over the county, and try to educate.
Keep it up.
And I have to keep it up. But how can we?
Okay, we're having the conference. We're having the conference this coming Saturday. We have a wonderful roster of beautiful, beautiful people coming to talk to us, and they will be giving us all sorts of information. And you know, every time we talk to one person, that person does go out and talk to others, so we can multiply the effect. I think that's a possibility. I do know that, at least in the suburbs where I live, the schools are taking the environment very seriously.
Yes.
The schools are doing a wonderful job in grammar school and in high school. They are teaching kids to plant organic food. They're doing all sorts of wonderful stuff. So what we have to do is understand that there's an urgency and really get busier.
Yes.
And also understand how interrelated everything is.
Oh, yes.
Because you were mentioning that you had become a vegan,
Yeah,
not even a vegetarian, but a vegan. Well, that's really a very significant thing to do, because the production of the food crops to feed the animals is a huge user of water. And so just by eating maybe less meat or you know, cut it back entirely, that is going to help save our water. And another thing is to keep in mind where the food is coming from, where our products are coming from.
Oh yes, transportation.
Because transportation is a huge consumer of producing the gasoline for the transportation is a huge consumer of water again. So those, and electricity.
Everything,
So being aware that the more local we can be, the more we can have neighborhood urban gardens and grow our own food. Everything that we do like that is going to not only help educate the younger generation, but it will make a difference now and for the future.
Now, you wrote your book, right? Cancer?
Breast cancer.
Breast cancer.
Healthy and beautiful.